Hello and welcome to another episode of the FTM's Guide. Today I want to talk about the harsh reality of transitioning. I come to this topic today because I'm sure, as you see, a lot of guys who transition, they have such a beautiful transition, they have such good, there's so much expectation in having such a good transition. Some guys look so handsome, some guys look great, but there's a lot of behind the scenes things that you might not see that they may or may not go through. Like I said, this is very subjective to people, but for me, hitting 8 years on testosterone, I've been through a lot of things. I've been through the highs, and I've been through the lows. And I wanted to be as open and transparent and as honest with you as I can with transitioning. And, if you are considering transitioning as an FTM, and like I said, these videos are for education purposes. This is for you to really do the homework, see the information, see if transitioning is worth it or not. And like I said, because there's a lot of videos out there with such good results in transitioning, but sometimes you don't really see all of these risks or all of these societal, discriminations that do come with it. So I'm going to be separating this video into 3 segments. We're going to start with the risk of taking testosterone, both physical and mental, the risk of surgery, top bottom surgery or whatever surgery that you may do, and the societal discriminations or things that you may go through while socially transitioning. So let's just get to it. Taking testosterone. So the risks that come with taking testosterone are, there's a lot of pros and cons. So before I do address the risk or the not so good things that you might experience with taking testosterone is, like I said, you see all these, there's a lot of guys who have such great transitions. A lot of guys who, when they transition, they're incredibly handsome, they look so hot, they have such a great body, they're scar free, they have a full face of beard. First things first, I'm here to kind of put you into reality, come back down to earth a bit. A lot of these things, first of all, comes from genetics. If you were, and some, if for example, the jawline thing, if your parents have a very prominent jawline, you're probably gonna have a very prominent jawline as well. Especially, for Western people, you might have more of a visible jawline. I'm Asian, so for me, I do have a little bit of a jawline, but it's probably not as angular as a Western person might have. Those are some of the expectations of being Asian as well. You might have a more pointier or round face. It won't always be super masculine. Some guys who do transition have a very feminine looking face. Some guys still look like women, or some guys look like a very feminine man. Sometimes you won't look manly. Sometimes you will still look very soft and you will look very feminine. This is the truth. This is the truth. This is the reality. Sometimes you might not always get the genetic lottery where you look like an incredibly handsome man. Sometimes you will still look like a woman. And we can't pick and choose these things, but it is something you need to consider whilst taking testosterone. Same thing goes for facial hair. You might not have a full face of beard. This comes to genetics. If your parents, if your family, side of family has a full beard, you might have a full beard. If the side of your family doesn't have a full beard, you probably won't. You probably will have the same pattern as your family does. And that's not irreversible. You can do a beard transplant if you want to. Those are the things that you can choose to do by yourself. Hairline. Your hairline will recede. Men naturally have a, receding hairline, and you might even grow bald. You need to do all these homeworks and all these things before you even transition. Now where it comes to, your voice. Your voice not be as low as other trans guys will be. You might have a very high-pitched, squeaky voice. Your voice might never get lower. These things are, like I said, they're very subjective. They kind of fall into chance. You might not be as lucky as other guys as to have such a low voice. You might have a very high-pitched voice. Some trans guys, which I do know, have a voice that doesn't actually sound like a man yet. And these things are irreversible too. Your voice is irreversible. Because when you do take testosterone, there will be some bone growth in your jaw. Because it's bone, your face will never look the same as you were pre-transitioning. And also, same thing goes for some of the hair that you have. If you do decide somewhere along the way that transitioning is not for you, there are going to be a lot of permanent changes to your body. So keep that in mind. Another thing about testosterone is, if you, prior to taking testosterone, had very wide hips, you didn't have much of a wide shoulders, bone structure, your bone structure is not going to change. If you already had very wide hips, your hips are most likely going to stay the same. Your hips aren't going to get any, you're not going to get more of a V shape. But what you can do is you can go to the gym, develop your lats, develop your shoulders to make them look more wider, so that it tapers your body down better. Like I said, the shoulders on my bones, the shoulders on your bones are not going to grow any wider. So the best thing you can do is go to the gym. More things about testosterone. Your pores. Men naturally have larger pores. Testosterone makes your pores larger. That then makes your pores more likely to clog because there are more oils. You can have a huge outbreak of acne. You can have a lot of acne in your face, your chest, your back. Some guys have it so bad that they end up having to go see a specialist. My friend had the exact same problem. He had incredibly bad back acne, had incredibly bad chest acne. He had to go to get it fixed by the dermatologist. He was lucky that he didn't get much facial acne, but I know some guys who have really bad facial acne. As you've seen in some of my videos, I had pretty bad acne, but it wasn't like a huge breakout. It was spots. And I had pretty bad upper back acne as well. And the only thing I can really say about that is if it gets so bad as to an outbreak, then you most likely need to go see a specialist. But if not, really practice hygiene. Practice good hygiene. Me living in a very humid and hot area in the world, I take showers up to 3 times a day. But for me, it's a must to take it 2 times a day anyway, because I sweat a lot. And another thing you need to consider is you're going to sweat a lot more. You're going to sweat, you're going to smell, and a lot of people don't like that. So like I said, practice good hygiene. Another thing about testosterone which people might not know are the internal effects. Your organs, because testosterone is not natural to the female reproductive system, you really need to keep monitoring your female reproductive health. Go to see a gynecologist, check things out, check that there are no lumps, there are no tumors, there are no cysts, because you're more prone to getting maybe a cyst, more prone to maybe getting tumors, more prone to getting cancer. You really need to keep these things in mind. You really need to get your health checked up. Taking testosterone as well does make your blood pressure, because men naturally have a higher blood pressure than women. You're gonna have high blood pressure. That's why your veins are more prominent when you do take testosterone. So you constantly need to take care of your health. Also, taking testosterone is very similar for a bodybuilding woman who takes performance enhancing drugs in order to gain more muscle. Those risks come with, more risk of a fatty liver, more strain on your kidneys. So these are the things that you need to consistently check. And that's why it's very important that when you do take testosterone, you need to get it prescribed by a professional, because my friend went through this. She was an MTF, so male to female. She didn't get it prescribed. She did it by herself, and now she needs to go on blood thinners for life because she took the wrong dose without a medical prescription. She had to get rushed to the hospital. Her blood was clotting, and now she'll never be the same. And these are some of the things that you really need to consider and take care of yourself. I do my blood test twice a year to make sure that my levels are absolutely fine. So please keep in mind that it's not just the physical changes, it's also the internal changes that you need to be aware of. Next thing I want to talk about are, I may have missed some things, I'm sorry about that if I did miss anything, but let's move on to the mental changes. So when you first start taking testosterone, obviously it's very exciting. First things first, the changes aren't there immediately. They're not immediate. They are constant, they are slow. I remember being very frustrated of when are my first hairs going to grow in, when is my facial hair going to grow in, when is my voice going to drop. It's a slow but constant change. So you probably won't see changes within yourself until maybe the 3rd or 4th month. So please be patient. That is one of the things to consider. mental changes that I have heard of, and like I said, this is very subjective to individual experience. I'll share my own experience later, but the most common one are you are angry all the time, you are less emotional, you are hungry all the time, and you are just a little bit more active, or you're more horny, quote unquote. But the changes that I did go through, I was definitely less emotional. I was more aloof. I was less attuned to my emotions, and it got to the fact that my friends were telling me that you feel a little bit like you don't really care about anything, and that's true. I do care less about things. I do emote less. I really, if it doesn't suit me, then I just let it go, which in my case I think it's good for me because I don't take things too seriously. But I mean, for some things, like I've had clashes with my mother. I've had clashes with my ex, girlfriend, telling me that I don't care about them, and it's not really that. It's just I really stopped taking things too seriously. So there are some good sides and some bad sides to that. What I will tell you was, which was very heavy on me, was when rage and anger. So I usually wasn't a very angry person. I was traditionally a very calm person. But after taking testosterone, my rage, like just pure rage and anger, has gone off the roof. I get so angry so quickly that I literally need to find something to punch. So I end up punching a pillow. But I'm very lucky that I'm very attuned with my emotions, that I know that when I'm angry, I need to tone it down a bit. But for me, I feel like I have a little bit less control of my anger. But that aside, the anger is very immediate and very high, but then after I let it out, it just goes away immediately. But I would like to feel a bit less angry and less confrontational because it doesn't feel good. Anger, especially in your chest, that burning feeling, it's horrendous. I really don't like that feeling. Another thing when you do transition is you are going to feel a bit, because in the beginning your hormones are, it's like you're going through puberty again. So your hormones are kind of out of whack. So for me, I was really kind of depressed for like the first 3-4 months of taking testosterone. On top of my excitement, I felt very tired and depressed and slow. It wasn't until after the 4th month that I started, kind of getting the energy again. So that is kind of your body's way of trying to balance everything again, because something new is entering your body and it's threatening your body. So really do expect those changes. Part 2, surgery. Now, surgery is a big topic. As fun and as gender affirming surgery is, it is also my least favorite thing about my whole transition. One, you need to keep in mind that surgery is messy, it's painful, there are a lot of health risks, there's a lot of complications that can go wrong, and the recovery time takes forever. First, top surgery. For me, you can see I have these giant scars. Some guys don't mind about their scars. I do. I am very self-conscious about my scars. And the guys who are very proud of their scars, great. But in my case, like you see the videos of guys who do get the same surgery and they barely have any scars left, don't expect everyone to be like that. It's your body. Some people's bodies are more prone to keloid scars. Mine was, I needed to do, you saw my journey with trying to lighten up my scars, which they have a lot already, so I'm happy with the way they are. But sometimes if your expectation is I'm going to get the full double mastectomy and not get any scars, you might have large scars. There are ways to get rid of your scars, like what I've done in the past, or you can actually get another surgery to cut off your scars and then stitch it again, which then you need to risk the recovery process in order to get whether you would be keloid or if you'd be scar free the next time. So if you're very worried about scars, really take your doctor's advice, because I didn't, and that's probably why I got the scars. Your nipples as well. Your nipples might not perfectly be round. They may not be the size that you want. They might look really ugly. Some people have complications with their nipples where the nipples actually fall off eventually. These are some of the risks and the complications that come. So in my case, my nipples I don't feel anything. Like, I have feeling, but they're not, I don't feel them as much. But in my case, I didn't really care prior to having surgery. I don't even like the feeling on my nipples anyway. So me getting the surgery and not really being able to feel my nipples, I don't care. In my case, my nipples, they don't erect and they don't retract. They're just flat. Something to keep in mind as well. It's not always so beautiful all the time. Some guys I know have really large nipples and they don't like it. And obviously you can tell your doctors these things. You can tell them what size you want, but the healing process, like for me, when my nipples healed, prior to healing, they were a lot bigger. So now that they healed, they're probably like a little bit smaller than they were when they were first healing. Some small things to keep in mind. Recovery takes forever. Your chest is going to feel numb for the first year. You probably don't realize that. My lat and my upper chest, I didn't get any feeling back until a year and a half. Some things to think about. If we're talking about bottom surgery now, metoidioplasty. Metoidioplasty was very messy for me. I had a lot of complications at the end. It kept swelling. The swelling wouldn't go down. Having the catheter in for 3 weeks, I hated that. I had to carry a catheter with me all the time. I think I was allergic to the morphine or the medication. I had diarrhea, and having diarrhea during when you have stitches down there, the fact that you have to push is incredibly painful. And surgery in itself, when you come out of the surgery, it is very, very painful. The fact that I couldn't stand or walk for the first 2 days sucked. The recovery time of almost 6 to 8 months suck. You know, for me, I like to exercise. For the fact that I didn't get to exercise for that long sucked. I hated it. And also the internal surgeries that some, trans guys do, the hysterectomy, oophorectomy, and having your sexual reproductive organs out of your body, you need to then, there are risks in that. You can be completely menopausal if you stop taking any hormones, and that's very dangerous in itself. So you really need to, so in my case, I also have hysterectomy. I need to take testosterone for the rest of my life because I don't have any natural recurring hormones anymore. And if you stop like I said, if you stop taking hormones, you do become slightly menopausal, in which you are then at a risk of osteoporosis, and your emotions will swing as well. And I got hot flashes like you've seen in my previous videos, and it absolutely sucked because I missed a couple of cycles of my testosterone shots. So you need to do your homework and really take care of yourself. Same fact with phalloplasty. If you have phalloplasty, you're going to get scars. You're going to get large scars because you need a donor site, be it your arm, be it your lat, be it your thigh or your abdomen. And I know there's one guy who commented on my video saying that you don't need a donor site. Where he does it in his country, you don't need it. If that's the case, that's great. But I know a lot of the more accessible ones, you still need a donor sperm. And with phalloplasty, it's not sperm, sorry, a donor site. And with phalloplasty, keep in mind, it won't naturally erect. And I can't share this for myself. I don't know how much sensation, how much feeling there is in it. But like I said, you won't naturally erect. You need to put a pumping device in, and you won't naturally shrink. So the size that you ask for is the size you get. So if some guys like a big bulge, that's great. But if some guys don't, it might be really uncomfortable. In my case as well, me having testicular implants, I couldn't feel my balls for the first 2 years. Now I have full feeling. I can feel everything. But the fact that it was numb sucked. Okay. Some guys have risk when they do urethral lengthening so that they can stand to pee. Some guys get a fistula. Some guys have a very broken stream. Some guys sometimes it closes, the hole closes, and they have to get another surgery for that. These are just some of the things that can go wrong with surgery. So please keep that in mind. I'm not trying to scare you, but I'm trying to tell you the truth and as it is, and things to consider really before going through all these things, going through the process of if this surgery is that surgery that's right for you. With all cosmetic surgeries though, there are risks, and not even cosmetic, even just normal surgeries, there are risks in all of it. So I hope that information is able to help you better in your decision to transition or not. But these are the things that I know of and some of the experience that I have been through. Last but not least, societal and social transitioning. One thing people don't think about at all is how will society look at you? How will society take you? First things to keep in mind is your country still discriminating of the LGBTQ community? Is it difficult to find a job? Are jobs more, will you risk losing your job by transitioning? I'm lucky enough to have a company that's very, very accepting. But I know some people in some countries that this is illegal, you cannot transition, you cannot do this. And these are some of the things that you should consider. Sorry, I have a cramp, that's why I'm standing on one foot. If your parents knew beforehand, or if you're suddenly coming to your parents with this new news, are they accepting of it? How would they react? You need to give people some time in order to really take the information in. I know some people have really good transitions where their parents, their friends are very supportive, but I also have friends who got disowned by their parents, who their friends couldn't accept them. And, in my case too, I've had a lot of friends that I've lost along the way, but I've also made a lot of life-lasting friends. I've come from, like you all know that my mother and my sister took some time to accept it, but that's what it is. Sometimes you need to give them some time. You can't be selfish in your own way as well to be like, why can't you accept me? You need to give them some time to really think about it, really learn about it, really accept it as well. And it's not just about the job. You need to think about how will you navigate your life now as a man or a woman? How will you navigate your life with relationships? How will you find love? And it's not difficult. I mean, like I said, if you find the right people, if you find the right tribe, you'll find the right people. People will accept you. People will love you for who you are. And it's probably the best way to find the people who really do care about you. But it's just some things to take into consideration. Another thing is the way that men treat you versus the way that women treat you. In my case in particular, because I live in an Asian country, because Asia is more conservative, prior to transitioning, the way I interact with women is not acceptable. If, men interact with women like that, which something I really was kind of a culture shock to me in the beginning, and I really had to learn my lesson in order to adapt. So, for example, I hug all my friends, and when I transitioned, I can't do that anymore. I can't hug my female friends. I can only hug my male friends. Unless I'm very close to them, but I cannot hug like a female acquaintance that I've just met, as opposed to when I was still pre-transition. And there are things that you need to learn along the way. Men will treat you differently than before you transition, and women will treat you differently than prior to transitioning. So some small things that you really need to keep and take into mind. Like I said, this is in the case of I'm in a Asian country, in a more conservative country. I don't know if it's any different in a Western country or not. Things are subjective to your experience, but these are the small details that I want you to kind of keep in mind when you are about to go for a transition, that not everything is so perfect, and it's not perfect. This video wasn't to steer you away from transitioning. It was just all the cons, or the most of the cons that I can think of, for you to decide whether it's worth it or not. In my case, yes, there's a lot of bad things, but there's a lot of great things, and I'm very happy with the way that things turned out. Do I hate recovering from surgery? Yes. Was I unfortunate to get surgery complications? Yes. But I've passed, and things are great. I'm happy with the way I look. I'm happy with the way I live life. I'm happy with my friends and family who are here. I'm happy with the way I navigate life. So, like I said, this video, and it's for expectation setting. I don't want people to transition then to be like, why isn't my transition like so-and-so? Why don't I look the way, or why was like I was expecting this but I got this? And it's similar to like pregnancy. Some women have a very smooth pregnancy. Some women don't have morning sickness, but some women have a horrible pregnancy. Some women go through everything. They go through morning sickness, they go through the works, they go through hair falling out, and it's the same thing with transitioning, but in the end, if you get to live the life that you always wanted to live, you are finally able to break free of the cage you're in by transitioning. By all means, is transitioning worth it? That's it's up to you to decide. I can't be the one to decide that for you, but these are the things that I want to share with you that can maybe help guide you and really educate you into seeing if this is, for you or not. Not all trans men transition. Some just socially transition. Some don't actually go through the physical transition, and that's absolutely fine. Like I said, it's up to you. It's totally how you want to live life. I hope I can just shed some light on this topic. So yeah, okay. I hope if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe if you're new, and I will see you in the next one.